Hello, good evening, everyone. This is the 2024 edition of the Minority Panel on the National Service. This panel is sponsored by two organizations that I'm a member of. First is Military Cyber Professionals and Association, and the second is Blacks in Cybersecurity. We have a high-powered panel tonight that are going to talk about service to our nation in various forms, and I'll just introduce. I'll say their names. And they'll introduce themselves. Their first is Nakia Henderson.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Nakia Henderson. I am the president of the Women in Cybersecurity Mid-Atlantic affiliate, also known as WESA's Mid-Atlantic. We cover the DMV area and are the first affiliate to stand up under the Women in Cyber organization. In addition to that, during the day, I am a government official. I've been in the government for 14 years now, and I do cybersecurity policy. I do cyber acquisitions. I do cyber supply chain risk management, and I also help small, state, local, and tribal territories understand the importance of cyber hygiene and just cyber education and awareness.
And next, Sydney Johns.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sydney Johns, and I currently support the Army, or I used to support the Army doing cybersecurity work. And I've been associated with, I guess, military or government work for the past 3 years. So I guess I'm kind of new to this stuff. Yeah, that's all I have for my introduction.
And thank you, Hugh Shepard.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Hugh Shepard Jr. I'm currently a freelance consultant. I've recently formed my own LLC, HSJR Global Solutions. I've been in IT and telecom and technology for over 25 years. The last maybe 8 years or so been more focused on cybersecurity. And also I'm a member of both BIC and MCPA, and I'm happy to be a part of the panel today.
Thank you. And Dr. Joel Tillman.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Joel Tillman. I have been in cyber for 16 years for the United States Army, as well as serving 10 years with Verizon under their IT infrastructure as an engineer. I am truly proud to play a valuable role when it comes to IA awareness, cyber security, education, policy, as well as educating and implementing new plans of practice to ensure that everyone is within compliance of the network.
Thank you. And Manville Lassane.
I've been in cybersecurity for well over 20 years, from networking, software coding, acquisitions, contracting. Currently at DHS, and I'm a little bit more on the acquisition and cybersecurity PMing, and that's about it.
Okay, thank you for the introductions, and we will go immediately into our questions. And the first question is, what inspired you to engage in national service? In the same order.
All right, I'll take that. I guess if we're doing the same order, I'm up first. I actually fell into the career of public service, national service, working for the federal government in July of 2010. I used to actually be in commercial real estate and facilities and project management. And GSA actually happened to be a customer of mine. And I just was curious about the agency and started to apply to be a building manager on the government side of the house. Fast forward to about 2014-ish timeframe, I was managing the federal courthouses and some high-level design build projects in the Baltimore, Maryland area. And that was also around the same time that we had very big nationwide cyber threats and vulnerabilities and incidents that happened, which gave me pause to think about how while I was protecting the infrastructure of my physical buildings and my tenants, how was I protecting the IT infrastructure of my building? So, like my telecom rooms, my HVAC system, my server room. And that just piqued a curiosity for me to pursue my master's in cyber policy. And I transitioned from being a building manager, property manager, into a customer service director and an acquisition. It's me helping to really understand cyber policy and how it plays in the government, but how the government procures cybersecurity services, hardware, and software, and how that's deployed across the ecosystem. And haven't looked back. I now am leading teams helping with the cyber supply chain and the integrity of that supply chain, and being able to give back to the community in forms like this to see it, believe it, become it. I never thought I would be in this position, but I love my job every day. I love the team that I work for, and I love being an example to the future upcoming cyber community, leading where I stand, letting them know that, if it's something that they want to do, there are resources that are out there to help them, but also there are others like all of us on this call that are setting the example for the future community.
Yes.
So what inspired me to engage in national service was, so they have this thing called scholarship for service. So you kind of like, they'll pay for a certain amount of time in school, and then after you graduate, they kind of place you with different jobs. And I kind of didn't know where I was going to be placed at first. I had gotten a call for like this one job way across the country, and it was like saying that you were going to be on a boat for a certain amount of months, and then after that, then you like go work at like a building and you like do all these tests and stuff. It seemed really cool, but I also wanted to be closer. Like I wanted to stay in like the East Coast because that's where I'm from. And so I ended up finding another job that wasn't too far, like within 1 hour away from where I'm from. So I was like, okay, let me take this one. And it worked out. And so that's where I was for 3 years. And so I kind of just got job matched, but I did have a good experience. I feel like I've learned so much. And it was kind of like a big transition because I felt like it was so many things to learn. But overall was a good experience.
I'm kind of curious. I want to ask you another follow-up question here. You got the scholarship for service scholarship, and I'm very familiar with that. Is that the reason you went into national service, or you think you were in
Yes.
it there anyway?
I think it was the main reason. I probably still would have somewhat ended up there because both of my parents were actually in the Army. And so they met in the Army. And so like when they found out that that was the agency that ended up picking me up was the Army, they were like very excited. So I thought that was kind of cute.
Oh, awesome.
Okay, so I think I'm up next. So on a purely personal level, what inspired me to engage in national service was like listening to my parents and my grandparents and other family members tell stories. Well, again, let me level set and say, like, I'm a lot older, so my parents came up north during the Second World War. So they would tell and share a lot of stories about, the home front, supporting the war effort, and just kind of listening to those stories kind of motivated me and inspired me. And also there was like my dad and other folks in the family served in the military and worked as in federal positions as civilians. And then secondly, I'm a U.S. Army veteran, so serving in the military, definitely made me, you're committed to national service. You're volunteering, in time of need to put your life on the line if needed. So that stint in the military and the U.S. Army also inspired me. And then after I left the military, I eventually started working for a Big Five consulting firm in the DC area. And so a lot of the agencies and a lot of the clients we dealt with were like federal agencies, of course, DOD, and then other non-military related type agencies. So that work also continuing at national service type work has been inspiring to me.
What has inspired me? I will say the Army as well as current events that has inspired me to drive towards cybersecurity. The reasons why I say both, because if you look over the course of the last 2 decades, you'll notice a trend and pattern that is happening within um, national security or organizations is vulnerabilities. The vulnerabilities are up on the uprise. The expenditures of which organizations, as well as our protective agencies, such as our armed forces or DoD, are spending extremely amounts of dollars to protect our networks. And we're starting to take note on a lot of methodologies that are being used, such as cyber warfare, which is in some cases hybrid, where enemies are using hybrid tactics, such as the networks, to violate people who are innocent or people that are a part of a certain organization, or they use traditional methods. I believe my role is to protect our networks to the best of my abilities and continue to find new methods and new tactics and educate individuals to strive to protect our assets before something catastrophic happens in the near future.
My first interest actually was not cybersecurity. It was something that I stumbled upon. It was actually the medical field, and I actually went back to school because I wanted to combine IT with nursing. So my paths was supposed to align themselves, and that didn't happen. So I ended up going to IT wholeheartedly, and but it's interesting because I'm from Washington D.C., born and raised, and I was part of the Mayor Youth Summer programs, and all of the jobs that I ever had were dealing with IT, and they were within the federal government. And also my family, also military. I used to be that kid would also go to the bases and the government buildings and all stuff like that as well. So even though I was thought I was going to be in the medical field and stay there, and even when I was in school, I took an elective, and I'm dating myself, like COBOL. And I'll never forget this. Her name was Dr. Jonas. I was walking across campus, and she told me, she said, "Manuel, you need to change your major." I'm like, "Why?" And then she said, "You're the only one passing in my class." And so it was fun to me. And if anybody knows anything about COBOL, if you mess up that one line, that one piece of code, you have to start all over again. But I like tedious stuff, especially something like programming. So I ended up going back to school and getting a degree in IT. So long story short, that was my path. I ended up being my path several degrees later. So, but that's what got it lit. That's why I ended up. I like the mission behind it, and where I am now, and I've been able to I guess stack on those with IT in the background, and because IT drives almost everything, and I've been able to adapt that, just like it was my goal to combine IT and health. So um, I guess that's my story. Thank
Thanks for sharing that.
you.
We're going to move on to the second question. This may be a harder question. How has your background influenced your perspective on national service?
I'll take that. I think I'm first to kick us off again. I will say my background. I'm a Valley girl. I come from California, small town, Fresno. So I'm a Cali Valley girl, but I do live in the DMV area. And before coming to the East Coast, the thought, the idea, the concept of working, for the government or even serving in the military was foreign to me. It wasn't something that it was even on my radar. And so the biggest thing for me is that my background and my upbringing and where I come from, It's you either get out or you don't, right? You get out of small town or you don't get out of small town. And if you stay in small town, the options, especially for minorities, especially for minority women, was very slim, very limited growing up. Going to school, going to college was always something that motivated me to get me away from, the neighborhood shenanigans that was going on that I knew I did not want to be a part of. And so coming out here, landing a job, working for the federal government, but also being able to partner with stakeholders outside of the federal government, the military, all the different branches and forces really opened my eyes to see that there's a whole world out there. And I always, tell my family when I go back home, the sky is the limit unless you limit yourself. And I'm very passionate about it because I know that my younger cousins, my siblings, everyone looks up to, what are you doing or where are you working? What's going on? What's happening in DC? This past weekend, we just had our family reunion. I got to see my great grandmother, who's 101 years old. It was like, great grandma, I made it. I'm still here and I'm still in Maryland. And I made a promise to you that I would go to college and graduate. And here I am with a master's degree working for the federal government and being able to send the elevator back down. It just drives me and it fuels my fire to continue to be an example to all those that I know are watching in my family, but to all those that I come into contact with and whose lives I'm able to either encourage or motivate or just be a sounding board for them. So that's how it motivates me.
I love everything you said, Miss Nakia. Like, that was fire.
Thank you.
So for me, like, I kind of think like picking back off of you, like I don't know so much about national service, but my background definitely influenced me when it comes to engineering and IT and like problem solving, I guess. And like, I guess what influenced me to be into national service specifically is I feel like for national service, we actually make an impact. Like our problems that we're trying to solve, it's either going to impact the warfighter or it's going to impact like like regular civilians, people within the US. And so when we're trying to do something, everything that we do should make lives better. And I think I care about trying to help people and making lives better. And so that kind of motivates me when I solve problems. I know that that is all very general, but I think that's a good application of it.
Well, my background, and how it influenced me for national service. Again, dating myself, but growing up in Ohio, basically the Midwest, post Vietnam, middle of the Cold War, everyone had this kind of dedication to supporting supporting the U.S. and the U.S. interests. Not necessarily in a war, but at least to promote the U.S. and make sure that diplomacy abroad is the U.S. diplomacy is strong. So, and then also again, being in Ohio, in Dayton, Ohio, I was near Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So pretty much it was a community of people who were either in the military or somehow supported the base as civil servants. So that definitely inspired me, and had an influence on me. So I didn't get a job at the base, but I did decide to join the military in the U.S. Army in the Signal Corps, which is basically the telecommunications branch of the Army. So that's where I started my career in IT and tech, and eventually became a over 25-year journey to where I am today.
I'll go ahead and I'll take next. I think one of my biggest takes on this is my culture. We have a major gap within the culture, and you don't see too many African American men and women in these positions, especially cyber. Cyber is always set off to the left. You hear a lot in other fields of IT, but I wanted to accept that challenge, and at the same time, the United States Army pushed that challenge towards me. So by being a representation of my race, I have the ability to inspire some of the individuals within the community. Growing up as a country boy, you don't see things like this. You're accustomed to dealing with more physical labor type jobs. So this gives me an opportunity to set that new stage for the next generation to say that, hey, this can happen. And the way that it has to happen is that somebody has to lead from the front. So I want to be one of those representations for my area. I apologize for not saying my location. I live in Delaware, so to see this type of image in a small state, especially a signal state, and I'm a signal first sergeant, I want to expand myself outside of the United States Army within the community to get a new lift on knowledge and how we play a role with cybersecurity.
I just wanted to kind of like piggyback off the young ladies. I kind of felt the same way, coming from DC, and it's almost like during my time, it's like almost like you have to show them that, hey, I can do this, and you can do it too, so to speak, and like, and I'll go back and say with the Mary's Youth Program is like a stepping stone for a lot of young African Americans to venture into the federal government, and whether it's cybersecurity or anything else. But it is, I mean, I have one of my friends who was like the top 10% of our high school class is still at the State Department. And and that's almost like cliche. Oh, you get a good government job, you're supposed to stay there. But the thing about it is what you do with it, and those are the testimonies right there. And I've been in and out of the government, but I've been a contractor, and I had my first career, but I turned around with the cybersecurity piece. But I guess the testimony there is that what you do with it and how you show others that, you know, how I'm turning around, and I want that you can do it too. And I think that's the piece that you like to show folks. That's all.
Now I want to go to an even harder question. Notice the questions get harder and harder. Now that you've inspired others to go into national service, now that you get into national service, how do you sustain that type of career? So the next question speaks to that. What challenges have you faced as a minority in the national service roles, and how have you overcome them?
I would say that what has continued me to strive within cybersecurity, besides my culture, because I believe that that's something that's considered my motivation to the complexities of certificates, and realizing that the learning never stops. It's always continual, um, and just noting that, again, the future of individuals who are trying to take into the realms of cybersecurity, because cybersecurity, it has many genres of cybersecurity. I would say that it's just overall the complexities and the challenges that are placed in front of me, and I have to keep in mind that though I may not see my crowd is waiting for me to make that next move for them to strive for into the fields of cybersecurity. That's all I have.
Thanks for jumping in. I'm glad I deferred to you and what you had to say, because it's kind of right in line with some of my experiences, especially being a Black woman in any discipline, not just cybersecurity, right? But in this world, you're always going to have an uphill battle. That's been my story. I've always, like, sink or swim, and failure has not been an option, and will not be an option. And the cybersecurity discipline, seated in, national service, the federal government, it's no different. I can tell you numerous conferences where I go into, and not only am I the only female, but I'm also the only Black female. And initially that was very intimidating. It was just very big. And I had to get out of my mindset and always remind myself, again, the sky's the limit unless I limit myself. Look at where I came from. Look at all that I've accomplished. I deserve to be in this room just like anyone else. I put my pants on the same way, 2 legs at a time. I've gone to the schooling, I've studied, I've gotten the accolades, I've gotten the degrees, and I do have value add to bring to the conversation, to the discussion, to the conference. I think the biggest thing is, we often hear about imposter syndrome and should we really be here? Are we adequate enough to be here? And damn right we are, because we have a lot to say. We have a lot of value to bring. And so for me, it's just a constant reminder, kind of like was previously mentioned, that while I may look around and scan the room, I mean, there have been times where I've been, I want to say 2,000 plus, and can count on both hands how many minorities, how many minority women's on one hand was there. And I take that as a challenge. I take that as a challenge to shift that needle, to move that needle forward, and to know that just because I may be the only one here in the room, it does not mean that I can't pave the way or encourage someone else to step through that door, just like I did. And so for me, it's just overcoming and getting out of my own mindset and not allowing myself to live up to the stereotype that sometimes is imposed on a Black female. We're always labeled ways that don't necessarily reflect who we are. And it's changing that dynamic. It's studying 10 times harder. It's making sure to know the policy inside and out. It's making sure to be able to read the room and be able to have the conversations and the discussions. And the biggest thing that I found that has been, successful to help me overcome some of those challenges is just walk up to people and say, "Hi, I'm Nakia. What do you do?" And that has opened so many doors, and it's let off some of the pressure, but it's taken me down many, many rabbit holes of long lasting professional relationships. And so to anyone watching this, I would say just introduce yourself and step through that door.
I was actually kind of excited for this question because I feel like I encountered like a lot of struggles, especially because I feel like I'm like early on in my career. And so I feel like the main things that I struggle with are imposter syndrome, but then also like not being able to find a community once I do come into an environment. Sometimes it was like an introvert and I'll stay to myself. And I don't really branch outside of my team to really find a mentor. And then on my team, a lot of people might seem busy, so you don't necessarily always have a mentor. But I would say that Blacks in Cybersecurity kind of helped me because I meet a lot of like-minded people and also women in cybersecurity. Like Miss Nakia is with the WC's affiliate as well. So like being a member of professional organizations like that kind of connects me with people that have skin in the game or have been in the career longer, that can kind of like give you that like background and tell you that things are going to be okay. And also just like give you tips on your specific like situation that you could be experiencing. And I feel like that helped me a lot, as well as building up my soft skills of actually forming relationship and reaching out. Because a lot of times if I'm struggling or if I don't know something, I just stay to myself. But you have to ask questions so that people know, so that they can help you. And so it really is like a mind shift change versus coming from like a place of being scared to coming from a place of wanting to learn. And that's all I have.
I was excited about this question too, and it triggered a lot of like self-reflection and looking back. And looking back, I realized there was a lot of subtle racism that I had to deal with as a kid, as a young man, young professional. And being a young man, personally, I didn't know how to necessarily navigate it well or figure it out or identify with it. So, or be able to identify it so it was a little hard. It took some time, especially, as a professional, a new professional, as a young man, like coming from a family that were, factory workers or worked in, non-professional, non-white collar jobs. So I didn't have that knowledge base. I didn't have that necessary, person who had a similar experience to get their perspective, because it would, things were slightly different, coming from, say, working in a factory or a blue collar job versus dealing with some of these same incidents in a white collar professional environment. But anyhow, it took some time, and what really helped was, I'll piggyback on the comment about not buying into this imposter syndrome thing. I'm here for a reason. So there's no, I'm not an imposter. I know what I have the knowledge, I have the skills, I have the background to be in this room, and I'm going to contribute and do my part. So just being up to the challenge, taking the opportunity seriously, and making the most of the opportunity, and also being collaborative. Working, again, like breaking down barriers begins with saying, like, hey, hi, my name's Hugh. I do this, or getting to know people, having lunch with folks. As simple as that sounds, but it took some time for me. It took finding a network, a community of similar folks like myself that really helped. And I will say I didn't have a mentor, but I currently serve as a mentor within BIC and other organizations. And that has been helpful and therapeutic, because like, hey, I've seen some of these same things, this is what you shouldn't do, or this is how I think you should deal with it. And I think it's been therapeutic. And, again, I'm up to the challenge. I'm going to help build that next generation of young professionals in cyber and in tech. So that's all I have.
Hugh, if I can jump in there really quickly, you mentioned the alternatives to the type of jobs that we normally see or have been taught. And one of the things that really, I actually still have it on my wall in my office, was summer camps, and it was cyber summer camps that started to pop up around maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And these summer camps, during spring break or the summer for the children, were being promoted in some of the affluent, better established communities, if you will. So I started asking the question, well, what about cyber summer camps in underrepresented and underserved communities? I see, the football camps, I see the basketball camps, but what about, the technical camps that's going to give them, that step up? And that's another driving and motivating force. Like, how do we bring those type of opportunities to our communities, where if they're never exposed to that, and if they're not exposed to it early on, that you may see, in other zip codes across the bridge, then how are they ever going to know? How are they even going to know that those opportunities exist? And so, every child nowadays has an iPad or a tablet or a phone in their hand. Like, that's when you need to go ahead and start capturing their attention then at that age group. But those opportunities are not always pushed out or socialized or even introduced as often in underserved and underrepresented communities that you would think you would see. So I'm glad you mentioned that and brought that up.
Oh yeah, no problem, and thanks for your input on that, because I agree. But I think nowadays, thankfully, because of the internet and these social media platforms, there's more ability to get the word out about these things. Because I mean, back when I was a kid, like if you didn't see it physically on a piece of paper somewhere or in the newspaper that day about whatever was, camp or something that was happening, you missed it. But nowadays, it's more, it's easier to get the word out, spread the word, and and get people connected and point in the right direction. So, and also it takes some frontline, people on the front lines willing to put in the work, organization like, hey, we're going to have our own mentee, we'll start our own mentorship program, be it with 3 kids, be it with, 1 PC or whatever. But, taking that challenge, stepping up to the plate, and, saying, hey, I'm going to take action. I'm going to start this organization, start this program, and, see where it goes. So I'm eating into everyone else's time, so let me. I'll keep going.
I just have a question though. I mean, over the past 4 years, don't you think that there's been um, a lot more push, a lot more push than before with the um, cybersecurity programs for the for well, I guess for um, programs for the brown and black and brown kids than before. I said you see more of that now than
Yes.
you did
Most definitely.
I
before.
agree.
Yeah.
I
You
agree.
see more of that. You see more grants that are, being poured back into the communities, or looking for companies that, are all about educating underserved and underrepresented communities to help them, understand just cyber hygiene, cyber posture.
Yes.
But you also see that there is more emphasis on, brown and black communities that maybe not had that influx of finances coming in to help that, even just laptops at the schools, donating laptops back to schools, giving them the technology in their hands earlier. So the dynamic is definitely changing. I mean, look at all of us represented on this call here tonight. Look at what we're doing. For some of us, this is how passionate we are about being able to give back. And it's opportunities and organizations like the ones we're representing today that I think is taking the step to continue to push that needle and change that narrative.
Yeah, I just think that they're doing a lot better now because I can speak for like Verizon. Verizon have been doing a lot, and there's other programs have been doing a lot more for the and maybe because someone got under their skin or something like that. But they're definitely pushing towards the not towards the more affluent communities, but for our community, so that because the kids are starting at kindergarten on up, they're interested. They're coding and doing all the things that we go back to school and in college at college levels to do all the stuff that they're doing now. So I see more programs that are geared towards the black and brown community now versus before. And the money is pouring in, the laptops are pouring in, and they're gearing towards us a lot better. And maybe, like I said, maybe because they are somebody's getting under their skin a little bit because hey, we need it, and you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing because it's more going towards the more affluent folks than you should be. I don't know, but I just noticed that. That's what I was wondering.
If you don't mind me adding to that, I believe that leaders such as ourselves are the reasons why that the gaps are closing.
Yeah.
For years, they've been a lot of our communities have been more focused on basketball, for example, or certain arts such as entertainment, etc., that have been accustomed to for the past decades, if not centuries. Now, we, as being African Americans or Hispanics, etc., we realize that the large emphasis of not just income but the knowledge type positions and jobs have always been catered to people opposite of our race.
Yeah.
So individuals such as myself, being a network engineer for Verizon for 10 years, I look at things like this and I ask myself, like, okay, why are you giving the suburbs or the upper class people these opportunities when the individuals such as the blue collar workers, they have the same mindset as well if you give them the opportunity. So yes, we as the leaders, we are closing those gaps and we're trying to drive a new direction from getting us from the what I call the evolution of the blue collar machinery type mindset to now the technical side. So we're making the system evolve.
Mhm.
Yep, I agree. And I just want to add on that, the world's getting smaller. And we're more and more connected. And with that, there's also malicious, organizations, APTs out there targeting, the U.S. And if there's an attack on critical infrastructure, we're all impacted. Black, white, brown,
Yes.
yellow, whoever. So it's all hands on deck. And so when it comes to building up that next technical and cyber workforce, we all have to build that knowledge, be it, be it AI, data analytics, quantum computing. Everyone needs to be up to speed on that, and not fear it, and not be afraid like, oh, AI is going to take my job. No, AI is a tool that you can use to make your job better, or for whatever you can think of. So let's not fear this stuff. Let's learn about it and let's leverage it, to our benefit. So, again, it's all hands on deck, and that means everyone, from your, underserved communities to more affluent communities. We all need that knowledge and improving our knowledge when it comes to tech and the emerging technologies out there.
Yeah, I just wanted to join the panel here for a minute, and you just got done talking about something that's my mission at my university is STEM outreach, and I can tell you there are numerous programs. I just want to rattle off a few of them. And I go to Black Girls Hack, Black Girls Code, National Society of Black Engineers Junior chapters, the Cyber Patriot, the VEX, and VEX Robotics. Just many organizations out there, and as you said, these organizations are beginning to target minority communities a lot more than they used to, because I see it. I'm out of middle schools and high schools a lot now. So I wanted to segue into that. Is that what can national service organizations do with getting more kids? And I would give shout out to NSA's Generation Cyber Camps, which we host as well, and for teachers as well. What can these national service organizations do to attract these youth earlier, and get them interested in the national service as a career? What do you think the agencies that you have been involved with, what could they do better?
Oh, I have a good one for this. I think that we need to actually see the representation. So I think that it should be more encouraged for professionals to actually volunteer, even if they were to give us like a little bit of time off. Like say like you could take 6 hours every so many every quarter, to really encourage people to volunteer with VEX Robotics, like on Saturdays, like if you were at a competition, but then they would give you some time off or something. And the reason why I'm advocating so much for this is because I think like seeing another woman that like is actually like as a role model, it's so important. So I think first is incentivizing volunteering, and then number two is like putting dollars behind what they're saying. So like not just being like, yeah, we want this, but like no, actually give like $100,000 to a program that wants to teach young women STEM, and like give them the money so that they can build that program out and like have like nice computers they could build things and all the stuff. Those are my two ideas.
I'll jump in there. I know some agencies are definitely more advanced than others in this area. NSA was already mentioned, in some of their Gen Cyber Camp. I know DHS and some of the components under DHS, definitely K-12 is K-12 cyber specifically is really, really big and major in helping educate, not just it's educate the educators, right? Like how do you educate teachers as they are in the classroom teaching the students, but also the curriculum. How is that tailored? How is that delivered in a way that, students can retain and understand the information, and we're not talking, above their heads, but we're meeting them at that level, meeting them in, K through 12, meeting them, third and fourth grade. What does that look like? I think that agencies and just, the federal government, the military and so forth, I think just bringing the awareness, representation does matter. When you're talking about diversity and inclusion, you have to make sure that you do have that inclusion and that they can see that, and that you give them the leadership opportunities as well. Not just filling support staff roles, not just being like a receptionist or a secretary or, but giving them the opportunity to be on a successful path to the C-suite. But also always, I always say, send the elevator back down. Like agencies are funded, they're staffed, they have programs. There's apprenticeship programs that are out there that agencies have. Do more marketing for those programs. Take those, to the road shows nationwide to bring that awareness, to let them know. Do shadowing days, do open houses where they can get a glimpse behind the veil. What is it like what is it like in, the day of a CISO at a government agency? What does that mean to be a CISO? Have them come and speak on career days at the school so that they can understand, or just at least being able to get that insight to see it plants a seed, and at some point that seed may be watered, and it may not be watered immediately. It may be watered later on in their careers, later on in their paths, but at least just planting the seed and letting them know that there are other opportunities out there for them, other than, I think, like was mentioned, being in the entertainment and in the arts. There are other career paths that will be equally successful. And also, this is something I'm really passionate about, is connecting with the parents. The big question of, how do I pay for my child to go to school? How do I pay for my child's college education? They're sitting here saving for their kids all the while they're in their homes, but putting them on the path to success, to be able to get that technical aptitude before they even step out of high school, so that they're sought after by the federal government. The career ladders that the government has, the 9/11/12 track to get them in, the internship program that the agencies have. Like, get that information out there, nationwide, a robust marketing strategy to take it, to the street, so that they know there are other opportunities for them.
You have made so many great points, and if you don't mind me adding on to that,
Please.
marketing, for example, take all the methods that you see most of the youth using, such as their social medias, the
LinkedIn, Snapchat,
Snapchat, etc., and reverse that. What entertains them to stay on those things? We should take that methodology and use that with cybersecurity, for example, and IT security. Make it fun. It's I know that we grew up hearing it's better to show sometimes than to tell. When you put two together and give them a display, such as a billboard or image of Black men and women building something or infrastructure, it gives them that idea, like, maybe I should look into this. Maybe this is something for me. Or set those examples by implementing, even within the schools or so. You can start small by things that are affordable, such as, like you were stating, Snapchat, or going into Facebook and doing those clips and commercials about certain things, or get them more involved into programs such as LinkedIn, where that can educate them in advance of being around communities and seeing other groups, and then hopefully that will inspire them or encourage them to look further into the technology realm of cybersecurity.
And not to cut off anyone, but I mean, I'll just add, I loved everything everyone has said so far regarding this question. And I'll just add, I think, definitely outreach, being like physically present, because like as a kid growing up in Ohio, you're a little isolated at times. We may have changed, but I'm just saying, if children on the East Coast or near major cities had the opportunity to go see or take part in way more programs than, say, a kid in Illinois or a kid in Ohio or Indiana, be it going to the schools out there or doing an old school road show or something, like take out some some tech, be it in a van, be it somehow somewhere, just to get exposure so people can see these things. And even having some sort of build a computer program. There's so many. I have like 2 old laptops just laying around. I'm sure all you guys are the same, and not everyone else in America, or a lot of people in America. Donate these, have a kid refurbish them, build a computer, and they can, and keep it. And they not only, learn about computers, learn how to build one, but they also get a new device so that they can use it to connect to the internet and learn something. So I don't know. I'm just throwing out ideas right now.
I'm in total agreement with everything everybody said. But one of the big things that we push at our agency is that, because of a lack of exposure, is that a lot of them don't, with the internships that you were saying, Nakia, and I think that that exposure is that you're not going to the schools, and one of them was the HBCUs. I never
Mm-hmm.
saw them go to the HBCUs, and that was one of the things that we pushed. That when I was at the FBI, I saw the internships and all that stuff like that, but they didn't have none of them represented from the HBCUs. I'm like, well, I went to one. Why am I not seeing my folks there? So and the school and they had to stay there, and their school, they was on scholarship paid by the federal government. So in
Mm-hmm.
turn, I want to see more of us, but we are now starting to go out to the HBCUs because of the push from us. But that means also making sure that when we go down to those when we're pushing, who's going to be doing a push? Us. So that means you got to put a lot of us out there to help
Yeah.
say, hey, here's this agency and this is what we're doing. You got to make sure you have proper representation. So, but yeah, I just wanted to add that part too.
And I know we're getting closer to coming in time, but I want to socialize with you guys the discussion of just when we're talking about national service and the life working as a public servant. One thing that's a big hindrance to the community, of course, is passing the security and the background check, right? Like, so I always tell it when I do a lot of outreach at the local college level, even at the elementary level. I always tell them what you guys are doing on that snap. You better be careful because it will come back and snap you in the tail when you're trying
Yes.
to get a job. Like, you guys may think that doing it for the gram is like for the lights. You need to make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons, because you hear that they can't even pass a security clearance because of something that they posted, or a party that they was at. And when you talk about checking the receipts, I always tell them, make sure your receipts, they don't lie. I said, and you guys have to know you're going to be going through background checks, so the decisions that you're making today will either help you or will hurt you later on in life. And that's also an unspoken deterrent for some of them, or not just for some of them, but for the future, like just getting them past the whole background investigation and teaching them early on to make sure that they're aware of those type of things that they're doing in junior high school, in sixth grade, in college, first and second years, away from home, no adult supervision. They also have to be careful of what they're doing, because that is also another reason why. Do you have a record? Do you not have a record? Let's not get you in a situation where you even have a record, because then you're already taking yourself out of the equation before you can even enter it.
And I'll just double speak on that as well. The biases are already hard on you because
Yes.
of us.
Exactly.
Because the same thing that our Caucasian counterparts can do, we can't do, and they may have the exact same thing.
Yes.
And the same thing that you're saying, I speak the same thing to folks as well. But you just can't do it.
Yeah.
Period. Point blank.
Exactly. That is an excellent point, because we already come into this game and into this field of studies with I call it strike two.
Yep.
We don't even know what strike one and what strike one was, but we come in there with strike two because they may not say it, and I believe that there is in some realms silent racism, but they will not tell you that this is something that is a little different to them when they see our faces in this, and that we're planning to stay. But we have to always keep in mind and inform our even the youth that you sound judgment before you push that enter button.
Yeah.
And I'm speaking that as for any social media outlets, any time that you push enter on an email, because once it's out there and what I call the digital wild wild west, it is done.
Yeah. Can't
That
take
is
it back.
That's true. And personally, I did go through that, and during my first clearance, I had never left the country ever, and this former agent who became a person who was doing clearances was basically biased against my background because of where I grew up, and I had never left DC except for when I went away to college. But then you have my counterparts who've been out the country. I never left DC, didn't even have a passport yet, but their clearances came back like that. Took a whole year because
Yeah.
of the biases that
Yes.
this particular person had based off of where I grew up, and even ask particular questions. Well, why didn't you do this and why didn't you do that? I'm like, are you asking me why didn't I sell drugs and why didn't I do this? You
Yes.
Yeah.
know, so but and I mean those are the biases that person might have because of where you grew up, because of us and who we are. But
Yes.
we have to educate them because that's what they think.
I mean, it's that unconscious bias that is found at that intersection of, you know, people of color and security, right? And when you put
Yes.
those two together, regardless if we're talking about cybersecurity, physical security, it's a stereotype, and it's being able, you like you say, you already come in two strikes, like that is the intersection where that unconscious bias really comes into play right
Yes,
there, and that
I
is
agree.
definitely hard to overcome because you do
Yes.
get scrutinized. You know, who are you related to, who's your siblings, who's this, who's that, and it's just like,
Exactly.
but who am I? you
It,
know like
bottom line.
It's the bias that you'll find within every society or every environment. I mean, whether it's low income housing or being out in the rural area, because the expectations from the vast majority, they expect us to be in what they perceive us to be. They want us
correct.
to either be farmers or we're slinging dice. We're either
It,
slinging drugs or we're out here talking about rims. But again, as for the leaders that are here, we that are on this call this evening, we have to close that gap. We have to give that new image, and we have to display a new billboard that does not perceive us as being people that are smoking cigarettes or drinking alcohol, but we can also build to new heights, within our communities.
I mean,
it's
all
each,
of us on this call, no one has like the big chains on. We're all showed up very professional tonight. We all came like, in professional settings, and that, like you said, representation matters. Like this call, the six of us on this call, this representation matters. Knowing that this is going to be aired at a future date and time, on a broad scale, it's going to plant a seed into someone's mind, to how am I showing up, how am I arising, how am I, on this call, and how am I speaking, or just in general, because those are all things that play into, the bottom line. Like, that's being real.
Yes.
each one teach one.
Yes.
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 Amen. This has been a very inspirational panel. I tell you, y'all got me motivated to try to start my career all over again. But I want to. This is our closing, and I've been thinking about this. I want you to really look into the camera like you're looking at somebody, and give them the bumper sticker talk. Something real short. In the military, say, if you don't remember anything else I said, remember this.
I will say to any and everyone that is watching this clip, the sky's the limit unless you limit yourself. And when you look up at the sky, you see how vast and how mighty it is. That is your limit. Do not place any limitations on what you're capable of. And also lead where you stand. Just because you may not have the title, you may not have the accolades behind your name at this very moment, it doesn't mean that you can't get it. But it also doesn't mean that there is not a natural born leader that's in you. Unleash your potential and know that the sky is the limit.
I would say that if you could remember one thing, a bumper sticker is that everything that you need, you actually already have. And so what I mean to say is that you're actually equipped. Like I tell myself that so many times, like you're equipped with everything that you need. And so yes, you might go out and search new information, new opportunities, but you're equipped with the potential and everything that you need to be successful already.
The main message I want to pass on is remember that you're there, you're in that role, you're in that room for a reason. You've done the work, you've done the training, you have the education. Someone has put faith in you and trust in your skills and your ability. So make the most of the opportunity. Don't shy away from it. Be up for the challenge and always continue to learn, continue to improve, continue to help build not only yourself, but others. And remember that, again, you're in that room for a reason. Even if you doubt yourself for a moment, get over it and keep going.
Understand that challenges are in place for a reason. Inspire yourself, accept the challenges, tell yourself that you're ready to make that next move. When we stop accepting challenges is when we tell ourselves that we're not equipped for society, we're not equipped for the upcoming changes. Rather than speaking on it, be about it. I will tell anybody within my community, whether urban or in the suburbs, continue to strive, continue to break those chains, and start building a new path.
Just understand that just don't get in your own way, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Continue to learn. And in cybersecurity, it's always something. It's going to always be something new. And someone who knows more than you don't means they have the answer. Someone who knows less than you, they may have the answer. So always reach out for assistance and just keep going for what you want to go for.
All inspiring. This is a very inspirational panel, and I'd like to thank all the panelists as a group and individually. Thank you for donating your time and your wisdom. You will touch someone out there, not just someone, but someone's. Inspire them to, even if they don't go into national service, they're gonna start a career now. You built the flame, they're gonna fan it into a fire, and we're gonna see them out there as professionals very soon. Again, this national service panel is sponsored by Blacks in Cybersecurity and the Military Cyber Professionals Association. And again, we look to see all of you soon, and thank you for viewing this video.